Gaza, destroyed and cut off from the world. As the war drags on, those wanting to help are increasingly desperate.
There is a climate of fear for NGO workers. There is a climate of fear about speaking out about what we've seen.
Under pressure from Israel, many international aid organizations are censoring their language.
Siege, starvation,
war crime,
accountability.
Israel, we're painting a completely different reality.
Organizations hope their silence will buy them access to the victims. But will that pay off?
I would say that during my time with this organisation, I carried a lot of guilt.
This woman was hired by an international organisation to do advocacy on Gaza and the occupied West Bank. She was hoping to make a difference, but she soon realised her employer restricted what she could say.
I felt that I was part of whitewashing the situation in Gaza. In particular, there is a feeling that you are essentially helping to hide or water down the reality. It feels like you're almost being asked to lie.
She recently left the aid sector and says she never wants to work in it again.
I just felt this sense of rage, constantly, for an entire year. It's difficult to think clearly when you're feeling that much stress and anger.
Anger, because she felt she could not tell the truth about the situation on the ground. Gazans are starving as Israel restricts the flow of aid and tightly controls the entry of supplies. Hospitals can barely care for the injured and malnourished. Children are growing up among rubble and death.
My children go to bed without food. I beg from my neighbors, and sometimes I send my son and tell him to beg from houses for a loaf of bread or rice to cook.
The need for aid is undeniable. We travel to Amman, a hub for aid organizations operating in Gaza and the West Bank. We talked to numerous aid workers. Only one was ready to show her face.
There is a climate of fear about speaking out about what we've seen and what Palestinians are experiencing.
Shayna Lowe is a communications advisor at the Norwegian Refugee Council. While her organisation has not toned down its language, she has seen that others increasingly have.
We've seen organizations that would willingly sign on to joint statements or joint advocacy products that no longer want to put their name on it because they're afraid.
Afraid of being denied access to those in need. DW Investigations reviewed internal documents and messages and spoke to workers from a dozen international aid organisations. We also analysed public statements on Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories published since October 2023. We found that many organisations restrict their language and criticism of Israel. Some have even banned certain words or phrases from their official statements. We met an aid worker who asked to remain anonymous for fear of losing his job. He showed us internal messages from his organisation, including drafts of public statements that he had to rewrite.
There are multiple incidents.
And here, just to be clear, is the discussion about whether or not to use siege, where you're clearly being told siege can't be used, even though it's from someone on the ground.
Yes.
He struggles with what he's being asked to do as he has family in Gaza. And what does this mean? It means it's too emotional, right? That bit would mean it's too emotional. Oh, this is important, but for now, being able to operate is more important than conveying what is said in this draft. And this is someone from management. Staying operational is the main concern for aid organisations. In December 2024, Israel told organisations working with Palestinians they would have to re-register. Israel controls access to all occupied Palestinian territories. Israel requires them to submit detailed information about all staff, including Palestinians on the ground, something many oppose, fearing for their safety. Organisations that are found to have supported the prosecution of Israeli soldiers in international courts, or have called for a boycott of Israel, will not receive a permit to operate.
This is a question where organizations are being forced to adhere to a registration process that is wholly unjust and lacks transparency. But in order to continue or try and continue to support Palestinians in Gaza, any organization that wants to operate there will have to go through this process.
In a recent and unusually strongly worded statement, more than 100 organisations said the law aimed to block impartial aid and silence advocacy. Confronted with the allegations, an Israeli spokesperson told DW in a written statement,
Israel supports genuine humanitarian activity, but will not allow hostile actors to operate under a humanitarian guise.
The new registration regulations had a chilling effect on the entire sector.
When we heard that we would have to reapply for registration and renew on a yearly basis, and that this would put all of our staff, all of our operations at risk, we made an immediate decision. Okay, we're now going to go low visibility. These are the new red lines.
This aid worker also asked to remain anonymous. There's a whole list of words she's banned from using.
Occupation, Israel, violation, war crime, crime against humanity, atrocity, sometimes even Palestine.
How frustrating is it to work like this?
Extremely, extremely frustrating and extremely, extremely demoralizing.
Each organisation has its own guidelines. Among those that are particularly cautious are the International Rescue Committee and Action Against Hunger. DW analysed over 100 statements published by the two NGOs between October 2023 and July 2025. In October 2023, the US-based International Rescue Committee warned that the population in Gaza is under siege. Statements made afterwards repeated the term. After December 2024, the term was never mentioned again, although the situation had not improved. Another example is calling out violations of international humanitarian law. In October 2023, Action Against Hunger condemned the deliberate and disproportionate targeting of civilians as a violation of international humanitarian law. Similar phrasing appeared in other statements. After the new registration process was announced, the organisation did not call out violations of international humanitarian law again. Confronted with our findings, Action Against Hunger told DW that the most important thing is to ensure continuity of operations, access to vulnerable populations, and dedication to humanitarian principles, and that it continues to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and respect for international humanitarian law. The International Rescue Committee did not reply to our request for comment. The aid workers we spoke to fear their silence will not help improve the situation in Gaza. In May 2025, Israel instituted a controversial new aid distribution scheme that circumvents aid organizations. The US-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has taken over most aid deliveries. From the start, it has faced severe criticism. Hundreds of Palestinians have been killed close to its distribution points.
I picked up flour for the children. We stepped into death itself near the tanks. We saw the soldiers, and they shot at us with flares and bullets. Look at the young men. All the bags of flour have blood on them.
People are being killed simply trying to feed themselves and their families. The search for food must never be a death sentence.
A spokesperson from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation told UW that these accusations are false and exaggerated. When we visited Amman in June, humanitarian workers were on edge, bracing for Israel's next moves. We were scheduled to visit a warehouse where aid is stored. Then, suddenly, our visit was cancelled with no explanation.
That is annoying. Yeah, shame. So that's weird. Why have they gone from this is really strange.
We decided to go to the warehouse and see for ourselves. Outside, drivers waited to load their trucks with aid.
What kind of aid are you bringing in?
There are tents, clothes, medicine, food, fruits, and everything our brothers in Gaza need.
It appeared that Israel had decided to let in another convoy. Were the organizations afraid our reporting could jeopardize the delivery? Aid workers face a decision. Stay silent and cling to the hope of access, or speak up and risk losing it permanently.
There is no right choice here. And in 10 or 15 years, when people talk about how the humanitarian community responded to the genocide, they're going to wish that they had said more. And they're going to wish that they had said more sooner.